One of the most famous ancestors we have ever found is a small, roughly 2 million-year-old child we call the Taung Child. And we know with eerie precision how that child died. There are puncture marks in the skull and damage around the eye sockets that match one thing exactly: the talons and beak of a giant eagle. The child was snatched and eaten by a bird. Because for almost the entire history of our ancestors, once the sun went down, we were not the hunters at the top of the world. We were the food. So what was the night actually like, back before we had fire to push the darkness away? And before we go there, understand this. Your fear of the dark is not childish, and it is not irrational. It is one of the oldest and smartest instincts you own. For millions of years, the dark was not a mood or a feeling. It was the time of day when things with better eyes and sharper teeth came looking for you. The roughly 12 hours after sunset were, reliably, the most dangerous hours of your ancestors' lives. Every single day. That dread you feel when the lights go out is not weakness. It is thousands of generations of survivors, whispering at you to be careful. So let's start with why the night was so deadly in the first place. The problem is simple. We are a daytime animal, built for the sun. Our eyes are superb in daylight, tuned for sharp detail and a rich world of color, but they are close to useless in the dark. We have nothing like the night vision of a cat. If you have ever seen an animal's eyes glow in a flashlight beam, that glow comes from a special mirror-like layer at the back of their eyes that gathers up the faintest light. We do not have it. They can see us. We cannot see them. And the disadvantages do not stop there. We are slow. We cannot climb like a leopard, cannot outrun a hyena, and we have no claws, no fangs, no armor. In daylight, our brains and our numbers kept us safe. But in the dark, all of our advantages switched off, and all of theirs switched on, and there were a great many of theirs. The world our ancestors lived in was full of enormous predators that came alive at night. Big cats, saber-toothed cats, packs of hyenas the size of a small bear. But the real nightmare, the one that seemed to specialize in primates like us, was the leopard. A leopard hunts in near total darkness, drops on its prey without a sound, and can haul a body heavier than itself straight up a tree. To an ancestor huddled on the ground after dark, a leopard was less an animal than a piece of the night that suddenly had teeth. The darkness was their kingdom, and we were trespassing in it. So how did anyone survive 12 hours of that, night after night for millions of years? The first answer was simple. Get off the ground. Go up. Look at our closest relatives today, chimps and gorillas, and you will see them do it every single evening. They climb into the trees and bend branches into a fresh nest to sleep in, up where the big cats find it much harder to follow. Our early ancestors almost certainly did the same. The first bedroom in human history was not a room at all. It was a platform of branches high in a tree, chosen above all for one reason: it was harder for something to eat you up there. The second answer was each other. There is safety in numbers, and a lone human in the dark was a dead human. So our ancestors slept in groups, packed close together. And later, when they came down from the trees, they sought out places they could defend. The mouth of a cave, a sheltered overhang, a spot with a wall at their back, so that danger could only come from one direction. A single sleeper is easy to pick off. A tight cluster of bodies all around each other is a much harder problem for a hunter. But the cleverest defense was one they never had to think about, because it was built into their sleep itself. Researchers studying modern hunter-gatherer groups noticed something strange. The group almost never sleeps all at once. People drift off and wake at slightly different times all through the night. The older members tend to fall asleep early and stir before dawn. The younger ones stay up late. In one study, across weeks of observation, there were only about 18 minutes in total when every single adult was asleep at the same moment. Think about that. For nearly the entire night, somebody, somewhere in the group, was awake, eyes open, listening. No guards were posted, no watch was scheduled. Their own bodies had quietly arranged a permanent night watch, all on their own. The restlessness that keeps you up at night may be an echo of the very thing that once kept your whole family alive. And beyond all of that, there was the oldest rule of the dark. Be still and be silent. The night was not a time to travel or hunt or wander. It was a time to disappear. You stayed put, you kept quiet, and you waited for the only thing that could truly save you: the sunrise. For 2 million years, that was the deal. The night belonged to the predators, and we simply had to endure it. And then, somewhere along the way, our ancestors got their hands on the single most important tool in the entire human story: fire. We are still arguing about exactly when, but by at least 1 million years ago, in places like Wonderwork Cave in South Africa, our ancestors were burning things on purpose, deep inside their shelters. And the moment we could make and keep a flame, everything about the night changed. The first thing fire did was draw a line. Almost every animal on Earth is afraid of fire, and predators are no exception. A leopard that could pour out of the shadows and kill in silence would not come near a bright, crackling flame. So a fire became a wall, a ring of light and heat that the darkness and everything hiding in it simply could not cross. For the first time in the entire history of our kind, our ancestors could sit out in the open at night and be safe. They had taken a small piece of the night and made it their own, and fire gave us far more than safety. It gave us warmth, which let us survive colder nights and push into frozen lands we could never have lived in before. And it let us cook. This one is bigger than it sounds. Cooking breaks food down before we even eat it, unlocking far more energy from every single bite. And one leading idea argues that this flood of extra fuel is exactly what powered our growing, hungry brains. In a very real sense, fire may have cooked us into the big-brained creatures we became. The flame did not just guard the body, it helped build the mind. But perhaps the strangest gift of all was this: fire gave us time. Before fire, when the sun went down, the day was simply over. There was nothing left to do but hide and sleep. Firelight stretched the day. It opened up a few hours of warmth and glow at the end of every night, hours that did not belong to sleeping or hiding or work. For the first time, human beings had something genuinely new in their lives: free time, in the dark, together, around a fire. And what our ancestors chose to do with those hours may be one of the most important things we have ever done. Because here is the discovery that ties the whole story together. Researchers looked closely at what one group of modern hunter-gatherers actually talked about, and they found something remarkable. The conversations people had during the day, out in the bright sun, were practical and down to earth. Who did what? Complaints, plans, gossip, arguments over food. But at night around the fire, the talk transformed. By firelight, people stopped discussing the day's business and they began to tell stories. Stories about people far away, about ancestors long gone, about spirits and the unknown, and things that had never happened and never could. By day, we managed our lives. By firelight, we imagined other ones. The campfire became the first theater, the first classroom, the first church. It was where myth was born, where a scattered group of people slowly became a tribe that shared the same stories, the same heroes, the same gods. Fire did not just push the darkness back. It opened a warm, glowing, defended space where the human imagination could finally come out and play. And you have never really left that fire. Think about the last thing you did before bed last night. The odds are good that you were staring into a glowing rectangle in a dark room, watching stories, while the night sat quietly outside your window. We have traded the flames for a screen, but the shape of it is exactly the same. A circle of light in the dark, full of stories, holding the night at arm's length. The pull you feel toward it is older than your species. We are the descendants of the ones who survived the dark by climbing into the trees, by sleeping in shifts without ever knowing it, by huddling close, and keeping still. And then we found fire, and we used the safety it bought us, not only to stay alive, but to dream out loud, together, in the dark. If you made it this far, you're exactly the kind of person I make these for. Subscribe, and we'll go find the next strange thing together. We did not beat the night with claws, or speed, or sharper eyes. We beat it with a circle of light. And then we sat down inside it, and we began to tell each other who we were.